Hey, everybody. How you doing? It's Hot Mike's with the Bushman. We are going to begin right now. Thanks for being with us. Hit subscribe, hit notification bells, hit all those things that you got because we are so deep today. It's unbelievable what we have. We've got Justin Baldoni finally breaking his silence very lightly, but boy, within the gratitude, there are some serious shots fired. Also, we have the Amy Griffin story. Oh my God. Oh my God. Is it getting more intense and crazy? And then this Graham Platner guy. I'm sitting here in the middle of Maine, and everywhere I go, people are talking about Graham Platner. Got a hot take on that too. Hey, how are you guys? Let's do it. Hit subscribe, hit notification bell, hit everything you got. Okay, we are beyond deep today. Like I said, the Amy Griffin story that we did yesterday on Hot Mics. It literally took the rest of my day. I found myself obsessed with it. Could not stop researching, could not stop looking up new facts, could not stop digging, made phone calls. At one point, Harry and I are looking up coffee shops where they might have met in Palm Springs. The inner sleuth in me just went crazy. So we're going to talk about Amy Griffin because we've made some progress there. Graham Platner. We're going to talk about Graham Platner, who was plucked out of nowhere to be the United States Senator from Maine. It's like a crazy movie. And Amy Griffin, author of the best-selling book, The Tell. Just insane story of, I don't know, stolen victimhood, maybe. She claims that's not the case, but we'll get into all of it. But first, wow. Justin Baldoni is breaking his silence. He and his queen, call her for what she is, broke, or should we say lightly unsealed their silence on the devastating attempted takedown of his life by Blake Lively and her mercurial, manipulative, threat-wielding, crop top wearing, I gotta say it, husband Ryan Reynolds. Let's fire this up here.
Hi.
We have not done this in a while.
We can genuinely say that we are sitting here today feeling immense gratitude.
Gratitude has saved us.
It doesn't negate the injustice and the pain that we have also felt in the last few years. And we've had to wrestle with so many things and try to understand so many things, like how could something like this even happen? Let alone disguised as a fight for women.
What I will say is that there have been so many painful things that have been spoken into existence.
Untruthful.
Over the last couple years. And that created so much noise, and we didn't want to add to the noise. So we just wanted to let the justice system run its course.
And the truth and the facts have spoken for themselves. And here we are.
We are healing. There were so many of you who, when we didn't have a voice, were our voice. You had a prayer at the very beginning, which was that you just prayed that people would have discernment. And so many of you had discernment, and you used your intuition, and you trusted that. And you have given your time to fight for us. And thank you does not feel like enough. And one thing that we've learned is that when God presses the reset button and when everything else is stripped away, that's when love shows up.
And I did.
And we feel so loved.
Wow. Here's Rose City. Billy championed him. He should come on Hot Mics. We're working on that. How did Justin Baldoni survive this entire saga with Blake Lively? The answer is quite clear. His wife. Wow, the two of them together, natural, easy, unchoreographed. There's no remember Blake like setting up that whole thing with what's his name, the co-star of her movie, not Baldoni, the other guy. A funny skit with Ryan, and yet there's always a mean thread to it. Everything feels rehearsed and premeditated. These two are sitting there naturally together. He never would have survived it without her. I'll tell you what, as far as the spouses, the supporting actors in this goes, Emily Baldoni versus Ryan Reynolds would be the best vice presidential debate ever. Are you with me? Oh my God, she'd destroy him. She is a strong woman. Yeah, you can see their state of mind right there is gratitude. He said the Baha'i got them by, more rooted in their faith than ever. Gratitude was the central theme in their Instagram post there, but sprinkled with shots fired, if you know what I'm talking about. She says, yes, gratitude, but that doesn't negate the injustice and pain we felt. She says, how could something like this happen, let alone be disguised as a fight for women? Ooh, that can only come from Emily Baldoni, and she nailed it. So many untruthful things were spoken into existence, says Justin. Truth and facts spoke for themselves, he said. We had to bite our tongues. We had to let the legal system work. And boy, did it ever. With Brian Friedman, they let Friedman do his thing. And the first thing he did that was brilliant was the lawsuitinfo.com, putting all of the exchanges up between Blake and Justin and Jamie Heath and everyone else involved. He put a dump out there. So everything Blake claimed and expected people to take her word on, they got to put forward, the evidence for us. What did that do? It swung the court of public opinion around to Justin, but only after that defamation suit. The defamation suit that he fired that ultimately got thrown out was to stop the flow of negative comments coming at Justin. Initially, people were like, oh my God, Blake Lively was so abused by this dude. Like we all thought was like Mr. Groovy and Man Bunny and like peaceful. And then that had to stop it in the tracks. So Justin also said, in biting their tongue, we had to pray for people's discernment and intuition. And the two things I mentioned that helped stop the flow of negativity coming at him, then people really clued into what was going on, and the court of public opinion joined him, and it never went away. Shout out right now to all the fellow content creators and people who dug for the truth, saw the snake in the grass, and called it out. You know what? If I was on Extra or Access Hollywood or still an entertainment television reporter, I'd had to bite my tongue. I would have to have bitten my tongue every night and read whatever bullshit they gave me instead of saying the truth. Thank you for joining us here at Hot Mics. Thanks for letting me do Hot Mics, because I just know too much. I've been around too long, and I'm not regurgitating shit for anyone. And, but shout out to my fellow creators, right? Zach Peter, love you, buddy, and Donna Bowling, and Without a Crystal Ball, and Elsie, and Andy at Popcorn Planet, and Kirsty Flaw, and all these people led the way with 2 snaps and a no queen, no girl, no you don't. Interesting thing about Justin Baldoni's post here. Like over 10,000 comments now, I believe. And they're all hearts and these and I love yous and we're with you all the way. God bless you both, blah, blah, blah. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have to disable their comments. They put up something, oh my God, we're so in love. Here we are at the Wrexham football game with everybody. There are 450,000 likes with 11 comments that say, you're amazing, we love you, go Wrexham, blah, 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 that they had to quickly mine and then immediately block and disable all comments because it is overwhelmingly negative. And it's going to be overwhelmingly negative for them until they come around and own up. People, and they're stretching this to the very limit, but people tend to forgive when you own up. Find your share of what you did. And in this case, it is complete and utter denial. They've tried a million different ways to just overpower people and feed them bullshit. And it just doesn't work in this day and age. The question is, can they still do it? I don't know. Calla Lily, what you talking about, girl? Billy, you are true and authentic. That's why I love watching your hot mics. Thank you so much. Yeah, look, I wonder if other celebrities are commenting on Justin's post being supportive. Interesting. Don't count on the Hollywood celebrities, the actors, to come forward and say the truth or what they're thinking. They're all just too career conscious, and you can't blame them for that. I mean, they really they're going to stay out of it as best they can. They want to play characters that disappear into stories. So, some of them are phony. The close friends should be speaking up, but don't expect like Brad Pitt to be like, hey, way to go. Yeah, shout out to you. Welcome back. Or, but truly it is a welcome back. And I'll wrap up my thoughts on this where we began. And that is, look at the relationship between these two people. You know what I mean? That's a real loving, supportive relationship. And you see very clearly, very authentically, very easy to digest how these two people got through that. And that is each other. So hats off to Baldoni. Welcome. And we're waiting for you, pal. Come on over. Okay. About an hour ago, I drove over to this little coffee shop on a hill. It's like the Ingalls home. It's like Little House on the Prairie, little cafe, little coffee shop on the prairie. It's such a beautiful place. And this mother-daughter team, who are friends of mine, operate it. And I said, what do you think about that Graham Platner? As soon as I walked in to pick up some Madelines for my mom, who's having book club over here through that door. She and all her lady friends are talking. I don't even know what book it is, but we were talking Platner while the Madelines were coming out of the oven. And you know what she said? She said, yeah, okay, he needed to step down. I got it. But you know what? The other guy needs to step down too. And she was referring to Trump. Like, why is it so? Yeah, how does he get away with it? And Graham Platner, who I think, by her account, is less of a monster. Why does he have to get removed from, the Senate race here in Maine? Yep, he has suspended his campaign. He's out. The scramble to find someone else to fill the role is on. But really, whoever they find, it doesn't matter. This vote comes down to, I'm pro Susan Collins or I'm anti Susan Collins. It is a complete, it is all based on her. But here's a hot take on Graham Platner, okay? How did this guy ever get to this position, right? He's plucked out of thin air by three, political operatives who live in Washington, D.C. They see him on a town hall, like at a town hall meeting, this oyster farmer who's got a gravelly voice and, he's like this tough guy. And but he's plain spoken and speaks this populist economic, language, and people gravitate. These three guys are like, that's our guy. That's our cast. And they come up to Maine. They find him. He's living in a regular home. He's a regular guy. He's unpolished, but good looking, tough, manly, which is what Democrats are dying to find someone manly. They struggle in that department. They pluck this guy out. And they make him, it's like they're watching YouTube, almost like they're Scooter Braun finding Justin Bieber, scouring the internet for somebody who's got star power. And these agents, these operatives come up and they find Graham Platner and they say, you're the guy. You're the guy to carry this Democrat, socialist, progressive, far-wing thing that's working. And they get Bernie Sanders to sign on. And now the guy's like totally legit. And people eat him up. And, he's just a oyster farmer living, on government benefits, mostly with mental health issues, PTSD from war. He's a Marine. He's got everything they want, though. And they're so eager for this manly Marine with a progressive Democrat view to be their guy. They figure he answers all the problems. What do? They overlook the idea that you might want to background check the guy. He might have some skeletons, but they say, you know what? We're not going to do the deep dive thing. Let's just do the quick one. And so they don't find any of his problems. They never did the extensive background check. They never did any exhaustive interviews with Graham Platner himself. Lindsay Fifield, the second woman to come out and do an interview saying he was, abusive and aggressive and a bad drinker. She's the one who initially texted her friends about the Nazi tattoo on his chest, the My Totenkopf tattoo, of which, he said he didn't know the significance of it. The scandals of Graham Platner kept pace with the crowds, but the crowds kept showing up. I don't know why it works for Trump and not him. Trump said, I could shoot people in the face on Fifth Avenue, and he gets more popular. Why did the Democrats bail on Platner while the Republicans doubled down and did not tuck and run on Trump? It's amazing how popular he was. He unseated or got a two-term Democrat governor who was his opposition to drop out of the race before the first debate, Janet Mills. I mean, she ran off. She couldn't raise money against this guy. He was so hot. But Collins has twice the money, and she was going to double his campaign commercial output. I understand in the last few days, Graham Platner was, frantically calling ex-girlfriends to see if any of them would counter what these other ex-girlfriends had said about him. And none came forward. None wanted to be in that spotlight. The New York Times started this whole thing. They cited 3 relationships that, where women all said he was demeaning towards them and sometimes physically threatening. Planned Parenthood jumped on this guy's bandwagon in a major way. They were desperate to defeat Susan Collins. So they, without doing any research on their own, they get behind Graham Platner. And of course, the RAP accusations come out on Monday, and then they bail on the guy. He is now blaming the political establishment, the corporate media. And by the way, and he's doing this directly on social media where he has been a star. He's been very good at it. Let's see if you are moved by what he has said, and he did it today. Okay.
It's Graham Platner here. I think as many of you know, over the past couple days, I have faced some very serious allegations.
Yes, you have.
I just want to make it clear. This is all false. The things that have been claimed did not happen. It's not real. It has placed an immense amount of weight on me as I think about what needs to happen now.
Put up,
Amy
Graham.
and I are regular people. We were not looking for this experience. We were not looking to get into politics. We had no desire to run for office. I just want you to think about what you would do as a regular person in a position where a much larger world, large forces, were working against you personally to accuse you of the worst thing that a person could do.
Wow.
And it was not remotely true.
That's the part you have to ask yourself. He says none of it is remotely true. Now, the girl, the first woman that came out on Monday, she's like, by definition, it was RAP. The assault on me was by definition, when there's no consent, that's what this is. But, I know a lot of women who are like, okay, I'm ready to embrace nuance here. The guy spent the night. They had coffee the next morning, and she's like, "Do you know what you did last night?" They had a conversation about it. You know what I mean? There's a little, and you could say this 4 years ago and get your ass canceled. But there is some women, and the women in this coffee shop were like, "Wait a minute, he stayed the night." I don't know, but he was up against a big machine, and that they were going for him. That the Susan Collins campaign and whoever else was going for the guy. Okay, let's listen more.
I learned about this through press inquiries with no time to truly respond, no time for investigations before a corporate media system and the political establishment got to act as judge, jury, and executioner. Accusations are supposed to be the beginning of things, not the end.
Accusations are supposed to be the beginning of things, not the end. I will say he makes a point there. That a tidal wave begins and Bernie drops out and Mom Donnie speaks out and Planned Parenthood is gone and Elizabeth Warren speaks out. And all of a sudden, everything crumbles around him like that. Now, like I said in the beginning, how the hell did we get this guy? How the hell did he get this far? This is a movie. The movie that they plucked the oyster farmer out of nowhere. Was that a Matthew Broderick movie? They plucked the oyster farmer out of nowhere and they send him up. You're going to be the next president of the United States. I can't remember the movie, but this is a script we've seen before. Jeannie says, Billy, did you see the clip of Elizabeth Warren being asked about her he's my kind of guy comment? Elizabeth Warren, yeah, he's my kind of guy. Elizabeth's always trying to, she's alpha up herself a little bit. Remember when she was like, I'm with my husband and we're going to have a beer. Hey, Fred, would you like to have a beer with me? Because someone had told her, Elizabeth, people vote basically when they're choosing a president for someone they could have a beer with. Like, who's someone you'd feel comfortable having a beer with? Oh, I drink beer. Let's have an IPA. Yeah, that's a little embarrassing for her. Okay, Platner, let's see if he's got more.
I think it's really important to understand why this is happening.
Okay,
in the
why
timeline.
is it? Tell me.
Why this is happening right now. Much like October, when the first attack started. Much like the news that was created the week before the primary.
Got it. We know why he's going to say that. We got it. The point is made. But again, how the hell do we get this guy at this point? These are people casting someone in a role. And I will say, as far as the casting goes, if no one had ever done any background and none of these people had come out, he would have been incredibly compelling. And I love the way the media is going like, he could be the next president. I mean, people get so hyperventilatingly ridiculous when it comes to politics, especially. And for some reason, star power is a big thing. Boring. I don't want to call my uncle, George H.W. Bush, boring, but the man had a resume that was meant to be president of the United States, ready for the job. We just love ours. Guess who's polling highest, favorability-wise, to replace Graham Platner? Patrick Dempsey, McDreamy, who lives in Maine. He's the biggest star in Maine. They're like, Patrick Dempsey could be the senator. What's wrong with people? Jesus Christ. How about somebody who knows what they're doing, who's balanced a budget? Dempsey, I love the guy. Bumped into him on a ski lift, on a chairlift at a ski mountain not long ago, and he had pulled up his goggles, and we had a great laugh, and we did 2 runs together before we both went in and had lunch with our families. Great guy, always had a big laugh with him. The hair off we did with a big industrial fan. We've done funny, fun stuff together. But just like me, he has a business manager that writes his checks for him because he cannot balance a checkbook. Is my guess. Maybe not. But he's a beloved guy in Maine. His mother, he has a breast cancer foundation here in Maine. His mother, a longtime Mainer, lifetime Mainer. But, it's crazy how people think, let's just find the celebrity. Anyway, Graham Platner's done. He's Graham Splatner. It's over. And we'll see what happens next. They've got 2 weeks to fill his spot. Here's Blinkbank68 asking, Billy, did you and Patrick compare hair? Yeah, I was doing an interview with him in San Francisco. Don't know why we were there, but I said, okay, I went and I rented with my producer. I rented an industrial fan, the kind they have on construction sites. And I put the fan and we had, each of us took our turns on full blast, getting blown. I think it's okay to say that. And Dempsey's flow, he outflowed me. I think he's just more popular. Anyway, maybe he's the next senator. Okay, guys, we got to turn our attention to where we were yesterday. This is really important. I need to engage you in the chat section here, live on YouTube and in my life, because it's going to take all of us to solve this. This is unbelievable what we're looking at. What the F with Amy Griffin? It's all going to be worked out, but I am really blown away with this woman and what she claims and what's being alleged against her. The wealthy billionaires who wrote the #1 best-selling book about her childhood sexual abuse, allegedly at the hands of a well-liked teacher on school grounds. She talks about repeated violent rape, starting at 12 years old and ending at 16. She claims her memories of these horrific events, were dormant in her mind until in her mid-40s. They were recovered due to MDMA-assisted therapy, psychedelic-assisted therapy, using MDMA. And she said she did this in July of 2020. Except a girl in her class, now an adult like her, now known to the world as Jolene Altum. Yesterday we called her Jane Doe, but her name is Jolene. And People magazine has printed that, and it's everywhere. So I don't feel like I'm outing. But Jolene says, no, these highly specific, detailed, violent, sexual assault encounters happened to me, not you. Which, of course, stopped the world in their tracks. So when Jolene realized that the gruesome, violent details of these assaults back in 8th grade, 30 years before, and she, Amy writes, the belt buckle, hitting the floor, the bandana tied behind this young girl's back, her arms behind her back tied with a bandana, her dress, frilly dress over her head, and the sunlight coming in. She was bent over a desk, and classrooms and bathroom floors and locker room floors. This incredibly awful, gripping account that was written by Amy Griffin as her own life in the pages of this #1 New York Times bestseller, saying this all happened to her from the ages of 12 to 16, 4 years. And then she had no memory of them until the MDMA. Well, Jolene says, no, these mirror to a T the exact actual events that happened in my life when we were classmates at that school. I don't know how they were transferred to Amy, but we're not, again, she's not guilty yet. But Jolene filed suit against Amy, stolen victimhood. So Amy, they were not unfamiliar. Again, like I said, they were classmates in Amarillo, Texas. Jolene says she matches the character Claudia from Amy's book. Amy constantly refers to this person, Claudia, a young underprivileged girl in the foster care system, or in Amy's book, she says, not foster care, but she was from the other side of the tracks. She had, poverty. Her family was not wealthy, but they were classmates. She was written by Amy as a tangential character, but someone who Amy let borrow a dress on the night of a middle school dance. But Amy writes that after recovering her memories, thanks to MDMA, of these assaults, She couldn't get Claudia out of her mind. Okay. She didn't know why. Like, why am I always thinking of Claudia? The first person, she comes out of this MDMA journey and she's like, Claudia, why Claudia? And all throughout, Amy writes in the book, she's like, how could this be true? How could this have happened to me? I can't believe. She's constantly planting little Easter eggs along the way of self-doubt, right? To me, they might be like bailout ramps if you need them later. Jolene alleges that Amy, stole her violent childhood trauma and made herself the victim of it. And at this point, from where I am in all of my research, I tend to agree. But why? So Jolene says she met with Amy and had coffee in 2019, a random catch-up. She gets a phone call from Rich Amy from her class 30 years later saying, let's meet. I'm going to be in your town, Palm Springs, California. I'm going to be in town in a few weeks. Could we get together? And she said, okay. And Amy says, so they get together. And in this meeting, Amy says, oh, by the way, you have a cleaning lady business, get insured and the whole thing. And that's, Jolene's able to point to that time where she got her license for her business. So that will be in discovery. But Amy says she took the MDMA July of 2020. So if she met with Amy and had coffee in 2019, where by the way, Jolene says we never talked about the incidents from childhood. We didn't talk about it at all then. But why would she call her in 2019 if she had the memories recovered in July of 2020, a year later? Just thinking about her? So, if you hadn't yet recovered your memories of violent sexual assault, would you reach out to a girl from your class? Again, Amy denies the coffee meeting ever happened. But a few years later, in 2023, Jolene says a guy posing as a talent manager, an agent type named Dominic Price, contacted her and over a month had several phone calls a week, gleaning information, details of her life that he was saying this could possibly be used in a movie or a TV series. We could option your story, make you some money. And she's like, oh, okay, this is going to help people, And she had already devoted her life to children who are victims of sexual abuse by adults. Quietly, Jolene has done this in her career. This is her work, cleaning houses on the side, but helping children recover from sexual abuse at the hands of adults. That's her life. This guy says we're going to make, a story out of it. She's okay. That could be helpful to people. And then this investigator says, he's not a talent agent. He's an investigator that we believe, 99% of me believes, was hired by Amy's lawyer, saying, we'll meet in person after all this. And then he ghosts her, never hears from her again. In 2025, Amy releases the tell. And Jolene's accounts of violent assault and RAP were now Amy's. To the detail, all things she had told this investigator type. This is Jolene's account. These are her allegations. And what are those details? Boot on the back, cowboy boot on her back, a dress over her head, bandana in her mouth, forced oral sex, sitting on a toilet just the most horrible stuff, beaten, slapped, thrown on the ground. If you tell anyone, I'll rip your teeth out. She said those words. Jolene says, those are my words. I heard them from this man. And Amy wrote those words as her own. So what does Jolene do? She files suit against Amy Griffin on March 4th of this year. And on April 13th, Amy Griffin, this is wild. This is very odd. She responds to this filing on April 13th, a little over a month later, by appearing in court. She initiates an ex parte motion to compel Jolene to expedite discovery. She shows up and she says, okay, if this is the case and you're filing this suit, we want to expedite discovery. Show me, in other words, show me your cards. She says to Jolene's lawyer, show us your cards. Show us what you got. And that was her first appearance. That was her first action taken. But it went nowhere it didn't go anywhere, but it did start the process because they began to start some type of discovery. And then Amy put a halt on it entirely and said, bam, on June 15th, she files an anti-SLAPP defamation suit against Jolene, alleging none of her claims are true. She says they never met for coffee, and the talent manager, was never calling her for these purposes. I don't know what purposes they'd be for. But it stops in its tracks. And by filing this lawsuit, it stops all discovery cold. So Jolene and her lawyers can't do anything. They can't go find phone records that show, that there was a coffee meeting out in Palm Springs. They're unable to present discovery. So Amy, by filing this suit, gets to put a halt on things to catch their breath. Now, Amy's strongest alibi in the whole thing, and she cites this in her anti-SLAPP defamation suit of a couple weeks ago, is a conversation with the police investigator from the Amarillo PD back, in her hometown where all this allegedly went down. Sergeant Gordon Eatley of the Amarillo PD. She says, I told him my story, and he, quote, said, this is as credible a witness, credible a testimony as I've ever heard. Now, it's important to know that missing from Amy's interview with Sergeant Eatley is the fact that these memories of hers came from MDMA. She left that out. How do you leave out the fact that these are recovered memories using psychedelics? Also, no mention of the bandana or the rip your teeth out, okay? Because everyone knows who this teacher is that Amy alleges did this to her. Everyone knows the guy. He's been there for 30 years. He still lives in town. The police have taken no action on the guy. No one else came out to corroborate the story. But she left the fact that he said, rip your teeth out, because that dude said it? What are you talking about me? I mean, already they're trying to ask the cop to believe, okay, this is somebody that, it's not who we thought he was, but the rip your teeth out might be a little much. I don't know. She also left out another detail, that the final assault, major sexual assault, happened when she was 16 years old. It began at 12, and the last one happened at 16. Why would you leave out that? And then Amy writes, to get ahead of it herself, she writes, because I think nobody will believe me. I didn't tell the sergeant because I think nobody will believe me. It is hard to believe that a 16-year-old who's been violently assaulted for 4 years in her mid-40s would have absolutely no recollection of it. I do understand the repression of memories, like stick them down. But I have, and I've told you this before, and someday we'll get into it, but I have experience as a boy of something that happened to me. And for years, I just ran away from it. I wondered why I was drinking too much and had panic attacks and all these things. And then but I always knew that it was there. You know what I mean? But that was one incident, two incidents. Not 4 years. And by the way, at 8 years old, not 4 years, 12 to 16 of violent assault. But all throughout this book are lines like that. In Amy's, she writes, it's because I think nobody will believe me. How could this have happened to me? This could not have happened to me. But then I realized, because of the mop that matches the janitor closet, it did happen to me. So yeah, Jolene responds to Amy's anti-SLAPP motion, which would stop all discovery, which has stopped all discovery. She responds on June 29th with 7 testimonials. Okay, because all she has to do now to re-engage discovery is she has to show the judge that this is not meritless, that there's at least something to go on. So her lawyer delivers 7 testimonials. William Jennings Bryan, a boy who was in their class back in Amarillo Middle School. Pastor Jody Shelton, another boy from the class, who states that from the details in the book written by Amy, the white bus that came from the foster home, the the blonde bangs and the bob cut and all the 9 different characteristics. Pastor Jody Shelton says it only matches Jolene. It could only be Jolene and not someone else. Because, of course, as you know, Amy says, oh, the Claudia I write about, the girl in the book who has Claudia as a pseudonym, it's not Jolene. I've never heard of Jolene. No, it's someone else, but I can't reveal their identity. Well, if the anti-slap goes, it gets thrown out by the judge, thanks to all of these testimonials, which I think 99.9% it will, unless this judge is on the take. We're going to find out. One of those testimonials that's unbelievably powerful is from a woman named LaRhonda Barnett. LaRhonda Barnett is, out of the 7 testimonials Jolene provides, this one is really, really, and we've looked her up. I know what she looks like. I know where she lives. I'm not going to share it, but she seems to me, in my judgment, to be a very credible person. LaRhonda Barnett gave a declaration and submitted it under penalty of perjury. And she said, I'm over the age of 18, competent to testify. If I need to testify, if I'm called as a witness, I will. Here she goes. I worked at Father's Heart Ranch Group, a group home in Sky Valley, California, around the years of 2013 through 2016. Okay. During that time, I worked with an individual who I have since been informed is the Jane Doe of this lawsuit herein. Father's Heart Ranch was a group home for kids who had been victims of sexual abuse. I worked there as a house parent to help provide support to these kids and create a safe location where these children could heal from their abuse. Working at this group home, the staff sometimes shared their own past personal experiences with the kids. Almost like in AA, you would be a sponsor, right? Shared experience. This was done to bond with them and make them feel more comfortable to talk about their own abuse. I remember that these conversations occurred both in small group therapy sessions and one-on-one when a child was going through a crisis, all of which are confidential settings. While working at this group home in and around 2016, I personally heard Jane Doe tell a story about her being sexually assaulted on at least 2 occasions. I remember that her story involved being sexually assaulted in a bathroom by a teacher in the school she went to while she was growing up in Texas. Some of the specific details remembered from what she talked about 10 years ago was that she was assaulted at a school dance, that the teacher involved put his boot on her back, threw her against a wall, and stuffed a bandana in her mouth. Bang. Those are 3 details that cannot be coincidental. LaRhonda goes on to say, I remember these details because they were so specific and disturbing, and they've stuck with me to this day. I was present at the group home when I heard Jolene tell this sexual assault experience to 3 different minors who were sexually abused themselves. Their first names were Randall, Alex, and Jonathan, who was one of twin brothers who stayed at home. Stayed at the home. On at least one occasion, I heard her relay this experience in a small group therapy setting where the kids could share their stories and offer support to each other. On another occasion, I remember being told that she told this same story to one of the boys individually, Alex, after he was threatening to commit suicide by jumping off the roof of the building. And she then told him this story. In other words, it gets better. This is what happened to me. You can recover. Are you seeing what's happening here? Jolene has made this her life's work. LaRhonda did this work with her. LaRhonda has given, I looked at her, I've looked her up. If this woman takes the stand, it's lights out. The article mentioned, I had only kept in sporadic contact with Jane Doe in the subsequent years since we worked together. In March of 26, 10 years later, I happened to run across an article in People magazine online about a Jane Doe from Amarillo, Texas. The article did not give her real name, but said she was involved in a lawsuit about a memoir. The article mentioned that there were stories in a book called The Tell about a sexual assault by a teacher in a bathroom. The article also included details from the book about a bandana and a boot being involved. As soon as I read the details, I immediately recognized them as the ones that I and others were told to us by Jane Doe at the Father's Heart group home in or around 2016. I then reached out to Jane Doe personally to confirm if my suspicions were correct. I contacted her, asked her if the story I'd read about in People magazine was the same story of what had happened to her that she told me years earlier. She then confirmed that was the case. I had not read the book, The Tell, nor do I have any acquaintance with Amy Griffin. I'm certain that Jane Doe shared these same details of her sexual assault with me as described above, approximately 9 or so years before the book, The Tell, was published in 2025. I declare, under penalty of perjury, under the laws of the United States of America, that the foregoing is true and correct. Now, here's where we are. Amy claims that she took drugs to recover violent assault memories, that she hired investigators to corroborate her memories before she went to put pen to paper. And in the end, she has zero evidence or corroboration. None. Jolene, on the other hand, has 7 testimonials. One you just heard, did not need any drugs or investigators to recover memories that have defined her life and her life's work as a result, helping other people. The onus is very much on Amy Griffin now. And everything comes down to July 23rd. Mark your calendars. That is when the judge is going to decide if this goes forward. Amy has tried to put a stop to everything with her anti-SLAPP and defamation. And all Jolene has to prove with her legal team is that that her suit, original lawsuit, is not meritless. That little, what I read to you, a declaration by LaRonda, is enough right there to say this is not meritless. This is a serious person who's worked in this field, corroborating the story. Again, Amy has no corroboration other than an interview, a phone conversation she had with a sergeant at the Amarillo Police Department who said, I find her to be very credible. And again, she left out MDMA, the fact that the last occurrence was at 16 years old, and belt buckles and bandanas. That's no small things to lead out. Now, the book publishing company, what are they doing? You know they're on shaky ground. They're doing everything, right? They signed up Amy Griffin because she had all these celebrities that were like, she's the best, she's amazing, she's the face of women's empowerment, she's the amazing ultimate, oh my God, she's helping so many people. Penguin, the publishing company, they've stated they have no responsibility here. According to the errata, which is a form filed by Jolene's lawyer in their June 29th counter to Amy's June 16th defamation, Penguin retreats behind the First Amendment, falsely asserting that publishers bear absolutely no duty whatsoever to investigate or fact check an author's work. They don't. According to Jolene's lawyer, that's not the law. A publisher, when a publisher's, wherever they're given information that gives it obvious reason to doubt the veracity of a source or something, it is a duty to investigate. And that duty was definitely triggered here. As for Amy Griffin told Penguin that she had taken drugs when the memories first surfaced. She's insulated herself, not only in just the pages where she says, how are people going to believe me? This is so, it's so hard to believe. But she actually told Penguin when the memories first surfaced that she had taken drugs. And she told Penguin the basis for her memories were hallucinations induced by MDMA. I've done MDMA. You don't hallucinate in MDMA. I don't care how much you take. MDMA tampons down the ego and allows for simple truths to come out, but you don't hallucinate. That's psilocybin. You can hallucinate on psilocybin, but not MDMA. So she doesn't know what she's talking about. Griffin informed Penguin that the memories may not have happened or may belong to someone else entirely. Are you shitting me? She wrote, you think that's her rich billionaire husband's lawyer saying, let's just in case, we love our Amy and we're going to let her write her book and do her story. But just in case, we're going to put this little line in here that says the memories may not have happened or they may belong to someone else entirely. Holy shit. So she put Penguin on notice that there was no independent corroborating evidence to establish any of these hallucinations were real. Hallucinations, again, a weird term. Finally, Amy told Penguin that she and her husband had a vested interest in MDMA pharmaceutical company Lykos. Her billionaire husband had given $1 million for trials, MDMA trials, to the company Lykos. And he's obviously invested. So if MDMA becomes legal and a big thing, he's going to make a shit ton of money. I can't imagine these are greedy people trying to just promote MDMA. Like, look what it did for me. It saved my life. MDMA, you've got to do it. This is like amazing. And because of Amy Griffin's amazing story, now we're going to make even more money. You're already multi-billionaires. This cannot be the case. No one is that greedy and narcissistic at the same time. Nobody. Now, we had outstanding questions. And if you have any, fire them away, guys. Let the chat section erupt with questions. At what point did Amy inform Penguin that the memories may belong to someone else entirely? When did she tell them this? I don't know if it was before or after publication. Harry, my producer, Harry is with me. And Harry, if you have any answers to those, just pipe in with them. At what point did Amy disclose to Penguin that she and her husband had a vested interest in MDMA? Same time. I don't know the answer to that. But, obviously before print, if those lawyers are worth anything. There is a photograph. Do we have the photograph? Yeah. So this is a photograph that Amy provided in the early discovery. This is a photograph she provided of the coffee meeting she said she had with the real Claudia. You're looking at this picture. The woman's obviously a lot shorter. Amy is 6 feet tall. So, but anyway, they're in a coffee shop she says, the real Claudia's town. Of course, Amy says, Jolene, this person is not the Claudia I'm talking about. This is the real Claudia. And so she takes a picture with this woman and she writes about their meeting, having coffee. And Amy writes in the book, I told her everything, hoping that because I thought of her in my MDMA journey, hoping that she would be like, yeah, because Amy does write a passage about there was a moment she saw the teacher who allegedly assaulted her. And he was standing in a hallway and he had his hand on Claudia's shoulder. And she's like, oh my God, that's why I'm connected to Claudia. This must have happened to her too. And so it's always been on her mind since the journey. So she finally reaches out to Claudia. She gets together with her in her hometown at a coffee store. But she says in 2023, not 2019 and not Jolene, 2023. And tells her everything. These are some of the text messages. This is the first text message she says she sends to the original Claudia. Hi, this is Amy Mitchell, which is Amy Griffin's maiden name, from middle school. I know such a long time ago. Hope you're doing great. I'll be in your area in a few weeks. Could we catch up for a coffee? This girl's thinking, what? Holy shit, sure, I'd be happy to have a coffee. But by the way, some lawyers reached out to me. I know what you're talking about here. I have no memory of anything that might have happened. I have two friends from middle school who is one of them named Jolene? Anyway, the text messages continue. She says, my life during that time was traumatic for other reasons. And no doubt I remember very little. If I can assist, I will. Blah, blah, blah. They go on to meet, and Amy goes to her hometown. We don't know where that is. But they go and they meet, and she ends up dumping her whole story. And this Claudia character says, I can't help you. I don't know anything about it. And then Amy says about a year later, she got a postcard who she thinks was from this woman saying, I do remember. Thank you for saying I couldn't have the courage to come clean with you then, but I do remember. And she receives this mysterious postcard. This is sort of how the book ends. Could it be Claudia? Was she having second thoughts and now finally coming clean? What could this be? And then she finally texts her, and Claudia sends back eventually, yeah, no, not me. I didn't send the postcard. Oh my God, who could have sent it? And then it ends. That's the closest that Amy gets to corroborating evidence. An alibi, someone confirming her stories, is an anonymous postcard that the real Claudia says wasn't sent by her. Guys, this is unbelievable. Lawson, I'm confused. Is Amy admitting that she may have appropriated the abuse of others, but is also claiming that Jolene and Claudia are two different people? Yeah, she's definitely claiming that Jolene and Claudia are two different people. She is, and she's putting in these disclosures in her own written form, and then also with Penguin saying, hey, these could be possibly someone else's memories. I mean, so I don't know if that indemnifies her. I don't think it does. But that's, her lawyers made her put that in there. But she, every interview she's ever done, she claims this is absolutely what happened to me. Forget the legalese. This happened to me. Billy, tell Affleck to make the film. Somebody's going to make this movie. I mean, well, I don't know. She's rich and powerful and has a lot of Hollywood friends. So I'll tell you who should play her, though. If they do make the movie, you know who should play Amy Griffin at this point?
Charlize.
No.
Charlize.
No. Who needs a job? Who's down on their luck?
Blake.
Who has a similar path to this? Blake. Blake is tall. Blake is gorgeous. Blake has a similar, this is Blake's return. Blake, you are very welcome. After all we've been through, girlfriend, I got you. I got you back in the game. Ryan, you can produce it. Somebody better go get these rights. I'm sure somebody else has got them. But anyway, that's where we are. It's astounding, isn't it? And here's what's amazing. Jolene, again, like I told you, Jolene has, Amy's book ends with no corroborating evidence, right? No person that corroborates the story. Jolene has several people, including this very powerful testimonial from LaRonda. A decision is going to be made on July 23rd by the judge if this is going forward. I believe that judge will have me on his ass for life if it doesn't go forward. You are not bailing out of this. Or we're checking the wires. We're checking who got wired what. Yeah. But also keep this in mind. And I think this is, not only are there two Claudias, there are two teachers. Okay. So according to Amy Griffin, this 30-year teacher who still lives in town, who everybody likes, is not who you think he is. And his name is, I'm sure, people know his name. But Jolene, and she's saying there's a different Claudia. And this is the teacher. And Jolene is saying, I'm Claudia. And 3 or 4 other testimonials are saying, she's Claudia. It's down to the detail. And the teacher? Oh, no. She knows. Jolene and her lawyer have located the actual teacher. And as you would assume, he took off The year after she left the school, he is gone and vacated. He didn't stay for another 30, 25 years and live in town and be part of the community. Oh, no, that guy took off, but they found him. So, I mean, I'm just saying, if this thing goes forward, it's going to be tough. A tough road for Amy, as far as I can tell. She's going to have to produce the real Claudia. The real Claudia is the answer to everything. If you've got one, okay. And the reason why Amy's saying I can't produce the real Claudia, of course, I have to protect her identity. She's not a public person. That's why I used a pseudonym in the first place, so I can say all these things and never have to say her name. Well, that's not the case in depositions. And if this goes forward, at least the judge can say, let me meet privately with Claudia and let's at least identify her privately. And, you know, we can keep her anonymous if that's the case, but she's still going to have to be revealed. Oh, holy mackerel, right? That's what we got. What a show today, my friends. What a show today. We wrap up with final thoughts. Here we go. Isn't Amy from Amarillo? Yes, she is. And so is Jolene. They were in the 8th grade class together. And I guess also Claudia. So the 3 girls were together. And one of them's a ghost. I'm pretty sure about that. We are a country which celebrates and rewards victims and victimhood. While Jolene has every right to object the appropriation of her story, Amy is getting the attention she craves. I mean, maybe. She's full of it. The truth will come out. Here is question. Is there something that would stop the victim, 12 to 16 years old, from 12 to 16, from saying something then besides the threat? No, see, that's another problem. She's the richest girl in town. She's 12 years old to 16 years old. There's no witnesses to any of the things that have happened to her. Now, Jolene has a witness that lived in the foster home with her, who saw her coming back with a teacher, tousled hair and the whole thing, and and corroborates that and says that they rode in the car together. And she admitted to him that there was sexual contact with the teacher.
I wanted to just add something, if I can. Amy grew up somewhat a child of privilege. Her father, Greg, is the owner now of Tootin'
Totem.
Yeah, gas stations.
Big convenience stores, a chain of them. So not only that, from 12 to 16, she, no one corroborates the story. She didn't tell anyone for 4 years, and no one witnessed ever, the two of them coming out of a room or anything together. It's the onus, like I said, is very much on Amy Griffin. Megyn Kelly is friendly with Amy. She doesn't believe her. That's what I love about Megyn Kelly. It's one of those moments. I texted another very famous female journalista, literati, and I said, can we chat off the record about your friend Amy Griffin? No answer whatsoever. Not going to out her. Don't believe in the outing. Billy, we need you back on the the nerve. Yeah. It's Maureen Callahan. We love Maureen. She's a tough one, Maureen. I'm going to talk to Megyn about this. I'm going to send her a text and see if she wants to rap about it. It's pretty. Thank you for doing this live. It was quite entertaining. Thank you for being with us. Could it have happened to both of them? Good question. The only thing I'm holding out for Amy Griffin, and give me a minute on this, is that she is an empath of some kind, right? Like, she was with this girl and she completely took on her experiences. My thing is, how did she know about them? I don't think Jolene ever told her, but maybe Jolene told. Oh my God, maybe Jolene told Claudia. If Amy's got any lifeline, there's a third person named Claudia who knew Jolene's details and told them to Amy, and that's the connection. You better hope this Claudia is going to have to surface in order to save your hind. Bang. here's a question from Krista. Was he drugging her, is my question, in her story, Amy, that made her not remember then? Or did she no, he never drugged her to forget any of these things. There's no mention of that at all. Let's see. Billy, have you talked to Jenna? Did she give her? No, I have not. There's also the possibility that Amy truly believes that this is her story, even though it happened to someone else. Yeah. That's what we're talking about because of the drugs. I don't know. Oh my, what is this? Jackie, I love Jackie. Oh my God, not an empath. Narcissist mimics empathy. It's just, boy, I think we covered it all, didn't we, Harry?
I think so. I think we're good. There's a lot of great comments today.
Yeah. Big Harry is he's there you are. He's an investigative kind of guy. He loves this kind of stuff, sleuth work. He doesn't sleep very much. I need you to sleep more, Harry, because we got a lot ahead of us here when it comes to this. Right. This story's ours. It's amazing, this thing. Are you guys into it? I think people are curious here, right? We want to find an answer.
It's an amazing story. It has all of the things, and this stolen valor thing is just, it's fascinating to me that someone can do this to somebody else.
Well, it's just the idea that you can't be a billionaire, have everything in the world at your fingertips, right. All the fancy friends, all the Hamptons parties. I mean, billionaire. You have a private jet to take you everywhere you go. That's not enough. No. That will absolutely repel people. And the idea that that could be the case makes people want to stick around to find out what is the real deal.
I think there's a sense of entitlement. I think she grew up rich. The family owned Toot and Totem. And I think she's had whatever she's wanted her entire life. She married
But she
rich.
Also, she writes this virtue signaling stuff in her book. She's like, when I went home to visit my family and my sister back in Texas, I was just so taken back by the Southern, conservative values, like protect the man kind of thing. And she's like this New York power liberal woman who's like, and I just was so, how could you people not, want to pursue the, oh, honey, I don't know. I mean, maybe. And she was like so outspoken about how we need to stand up for women. And be that I think she got a little obsessed with that. It seems to me possible that she got obsessed with this Joan of Arc, Blake Lively tried it, this I'm fighting for women.
It's a call for sympathy. She's a malignant narcissist. I have a tiny bit of experience in this space with somebody in my life at one point. I think it's malignant narcissism in a way.
Well, we don't know yet, but it certainly has the scent. Robin says we had a similar situation in our high school in Narragansett. Rhode Island. The teacher got caught and he ran out of town. Well, that's what Jolene is saying. No. The real teacher, he split after doing all these things, but they know who he is. That guy's shitting a brick right now. That is for sure. There we go. Harry, little love for you from Rose City. Harry doing Thank the Lord's Rose. Work right there. I'll say so.
You don't even know, Rose. You don't know.
My daughter, Josie. Dad, you keep Harry too busy to sleep.
I love the Bushy.
Josie Bush, my beloved 27-year-old. She's amazing. Thank you, Harry. And we love you. Thank you, Billy. We love you. Good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, too. Billy's daughter's in the chat. We have an infiltrator. There she is. I think, hi, Josie. We love your dad, says Linda. Isn't that lovely? Look at that. There's so much love here. What are we going to do? Oh, Josie, hi, we love your dad. He's a great person. Notice Josie's gone silent. Anyhow, I think Josie's mom might be in the chat too, but she's just quiet. I think she's listening somewhere. Hey, Sid. And Allie might be in there. Allie's listening, but she's not getting engaged. Allie has, I think it's an AJW handle. Might be hers if you see it in there somewhere. Sometimes she sneaks in.
Allie did a lot of work last night.
Oh, she
yesterday
did.
On the story. So a little recognition for Allie.
Yeah, shout out to Allie. She's a sleuth investigator. She sends me more pieces of information, and she's constantly on it. And she actually said to me, there's a 400-page document I was reading, and she's like, send that to me. I'm like, are you crazy? Of course, she puts it in chat. I know that. I have to punish myself to skim read everything. Anyway, that's it for us for today. Thanks, guys, for being with us. We love you. And that's it, because, it's Thursday. We'll see you on social media. Keeping, up to date on that. Hot Mics with Billy Bush, everywhere there is social. Those will be our updates, and then we'll be back on a Monday. And that's that. What a show. What a show. Who is Claudia? And where is she?
Oh, God, it's me doing me, man.
Right as sharp. That's insane. Billy Bush. Another compliment. There she is.